The morning sun had barely risen when Daniel Brooks parked his old, dented pickup truck outside the grand marble gates of the Haverford estate. The air smelled faintly of pine and money, that peculiar scent of luxury he never got used to. He'd been up since 4 a.m., packing his daughter Emily's school lunch, braiding her hair, and promising her he'd be back before bedtime. She had smiled, that small missing tooth grin that always broke his heart a little, and waved from the window as he drove away. He didn't tell her that today, he might not even get the job he was hoping for. Daniel's hands trembled slightly as he reached into his glove compartment, pulling out a folded resume, crisp but faded at the corners, printed on cheap paper. He had filled out dozens of them lately. He had been rejected so many times that even hope felt like a luxury now. His construction business had fallen apart after the company he worked for went bankrupt. The debts piled up, and when his wife died 2 years ago in a car accident, it was just him and Emily against the world. Now, standing at the gates of a billionaire's mansion, he was hoping for just one thing, a stable job. Not charity, not sympathy, just a chance to work. But fate, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. The guard at the entrance, a tall man with sunglasses and a smirk, gave Daniel a long look and laughed. "You're here for the security position," he said, his tone dripping with disbelief. "Buddy, this is Haverford Estate, not a gas station." Daniel forced a polite smile, though his chest tightened. He was used to that tone. He'd heard it too many times, from managers, interviewers, even other parents at his daughter's school. That tone that said you don't belong here. Before Daniel could respond, the guard chuckled again. "You sure you're not lost, man? I mean, look at that truck, it looks like it came straight out of the 90s. Something in Daniel's heart sank, but he kept his composure. He was tired, not just from the lack of sleep, but from the years of being judged by what he wore, what he drove, what he didn't have. He reached into his pocket, pulling out the letter he'd received from the estate's HR office confirming his interview. "I have an appointment," he said quietly, his voice calm but firm. The guard snatched the letter, scanned it, and shrugged. All right, your name's on the list. But you're really not what we usually get around here." He laughed again and waved toward the gate. "Go on in, Mr. Brooks. Let's see how long you last." Daniel nodded once and drove through the massive iron gates, past fountains, trimmed hedges, and sculptures that probably cost more than his entire neighborhood. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness, hard work, and second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel Silent Hope. Your support helps us share stories that touch hearts and remind the world that every person deserves a chance. The mansion stood like a castle from another world, pillars of white stone, glass walls reflecting the morning light, and a driveway lined with black luxury cars. Daniel parked at the far end, trying to make his old truck look smaller. Inside, he met the estate manager, a woman named Claire. She eyed him briefly, professional but not unkind. "You're here for the security supervisor position, correct?" "Yes, ma'am," he replied, standing straight. Her gaze drifted to his calloused hands and worn boots. "Mr. Haverford is particular about appearances," she said gently. "I hope you understand this is a high-profile environment." Daniel nodded again, swallowing his pride. "I understand. But I believe safety depends on skill, not a suit." Claire's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but something close. "We'll see," she said, leading him through the marble corridors toward a private gym area. "He's expecting you personally." That surprised Daniel. Billionaires rarely did their own interviews. But as he followed her, he heard laughter echoing down the hall, deep, confident laughter. Inside the gym, a man in his late 40s stood in front of a massive mirror, punching a sandbag. His muscles were defined, his posture perfect, the kind of man who carried both money and command in his presence. "So this is the guy, the billionaire," Marcus Haverford asked without turning around. Claire nodded. "Daniel Brooks. Haverford turned, wiping sweat from his forehead with a towel. His eyes studied Daniel carefully. "You served?" he asked suddenly. Daniel hesitated. "Yes, sir. 10 years. Army. Discharged honorably." Haverford gave a half-smile. "Good. I like men who know discipline. Tell me, why'd you leave?" Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. "My wife got sick. I needed to take care of her and our daughter." Something flickered in Haverford's eyes, but it was gone in a second. "I see. All right. Let's see what you can do. My last guard left after a small incident." He motioned toward the security cameras on the wall. "You'll oversee these, manage a team, and make sure this property stays untouchable. Think you're up for that?" Daniel nodded firmly. "I am." From the corner of the room, the same gate guard snorted. "Yeah, right," he said, crossing his arms. "This guy couldn't even bench press a dog." Haverford raised an eyebrow. "You think so?" The guard laughed. "Come on, boss. Look at him, he's what, 40? Probably hasn't seen a gym in years." Haverford smirked. "Mr. Brooks, would you like to prove him wrong?" Daniel exhaled slowly. He didn't want a scene, but something deep inside him stirred, that same quiet fire he'd kept hidden for years. The humiliation, the struggle, the nights of doubt, it all rose to the surface. He stepped forward, unbuttoned his cuff, and rolled up his sleeve. The room went silent. His forearm was covered in scars, old burns, deep cuts, and a tattoo with his late wife's name. But beneath all that, the muscles were hard as steel. Years of labor, military training, and sleepless nights of carrying the weight of 2 lives had carved strength into him that no gym could replicate. Without a word, he gripped the training bar, lifted it clean, and held it, steady and unshaken. The weights clanked softly, his arm flexed, and sweat glistened across his skin. The guard's smirk faded. Haverford's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed with respect. Daniel put the weight down gently and looked at the guard. "You judge too quickly," he said quietly. "Some men don't show strength until they have to." For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Haverford chuckled, not mockingly, but genuinely. "Well said," he murmured. He turned to the guard. "Remind me to never underestimate quiet men again." From that moment, everything changed. Daniel got the job. Not because of that small act of strength, but because of the way he carried himself afterward, calm, focused, and loyal. Over the weeks, he became the unseen protector of the estate. He worked hard, never complained, and often stayed late, making sure the cameras were operational and the staff safe. But one night, everything was put to the test. A storm had rolled in, heavy rain pounding the glass windows of the mansion. Most of the staff had gone home early. Only Daniel, Haverford, and a few guards remained. Around midnight, an alarm went off, motion detected near the east gate. Daniel ran to the monitors and saw 2 masked men cutting through the fence. "We've got intruders," he said into his radio. The other guards froze, unsure what to do. Haverford rushed in, alarmed. "How many?" "2. Maybe 3. "Armed," Daniel replied, loading his sidearm. "Stay inside, sir." The guards hesitated, nervous. Daniel moved out first, rain slashing his face, boots sinking in the mud. He crouched behind a marble statue, eyes locked on the shadows moving near the trees. One man raised a crowbar, and Daniel moved. The next few minutes were chaos, rain, mud, shouts, and the crack of a gunshot that split the air. One of the men lunged toward Daniel with a knife. He dodged, countered, and pinned him to the ground, disarming him with military precision. The other fled into the dark, but Daniel had already hit the alarm. Within minutes, police sirens wailed in the distance. When it was over, Daniel stood in the rain, soaked to the bone, breathing hard. The guard who had once laughed at him stood nearby, staring in stunned silence. Haverford walked up slowly. "You saved my life tonight," he said, his voice low but steady. Daniel shook his head. "Just did my job, sir." Haverford smiled faintly. "No. You did far more than that." A few days later, Daniel was called into Haverford's office. The billionaire sat behind a mahogany desk, holding a file. "You know," he said, "I looked into your service record. You were decorated, Bravery Medal, Rescue Commendations. You never mentioned it." Daniel shifted awkwardly. "Didn't seem important." Haverford leaned back, eyes thoughtful. "Humility and courage, rare combination. Tell me, Mr. Brooks, what do you want most in this world?" Daniel hesitated, thinking of Emily. "I just want to give my daughter a better life. That's all." For a long moment, Haverford said nothing. Then he opened a drawer, pulled out an envelope, and slid it across the desk. "That's your bonus for last night. And," he paused, "I'd like you to oversee all my security operations, full-time, with benefits, housing, and education support for your child." Daniel's eyes widened. "Sir, I..." Haverford raised a hand. "You earned it. Don't thank me. Just keep being the man you are." For the first time in years, Daniel felt something break inside, not pain, but relief. He took the envelope, nodded once, and said softly, "Thank you." That evening, when he went home, Emily ran into his arms. "Daddy! You're home early." He hugged her tightly, tears in his eyes. "Yeah, sweetheart. And guess what? Things are about to get better." As she laughed in his arms, Daniel looked out the window at the fading sunset. He thought about the guard's laughter, the disbelief, the humiliation, and how everything changed when he simply stood tall and showed who he really was. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Silent Hope. Your one click helps us spread stories of faith, resilience, and redemption across the world. Speech balloon. Before you go, tell us in the comments, have you ever been judged wrongly, only to prove everyone wrong later? We'd love to hear your story. That night, Daniel tucked Emily into bed, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "No matter how many people laugh at you, never stop believing in who you are." Outside, the rain had stopped, and the world felt quiet, peaceful, as if it finally understood. And somewhere beyond those marble gates, even the billionaire's guard knew, he had laughed at the wrong man.